Can anyone catch them, do you think?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Gooners podcast. Today we have got Arun and Bob again back with us. Hi guys.
Hello.
Good day, guys.
So actually, today is actually something that I'm proud of. We are hitting our 50th episode on the Gooners podcast. So anyone who has stuck with us or who has been with us throughout the journey, thank you so much. We value your opinions. Please do share, like, and comment as usual. But also thank you so much for following us for so long and listening to our ramblings and rantings as always. So with that out of the way, today we thought that we would start discussing on the transfer window. It's been a week since the transfer window was closed, but so that gives us a time to think about it. What about the transfer window and everything? So we will talk about the transfer window today, not just for Arsenal but Premier League as a whole, because obviously we should be able to compare ourselves to the whole league. So Bob, I'll start with you. How would you rate this transfer window from Arsenal? Like, let's cut to this.
If I were to give you a scale between 1 to 10 in terms of how our transfer window went, I would say we've done about 5 out of 10. That's because we've managed to shed some of the people out that we really wanted to at this point in time. But alas, the bad thing out of that is the fact that many of them are loan deals, which ideally should have been more sales in that sort of a thing. I mean, that mark slightly got increased due to also the fact that we managed to let go of Willian, or clutch out of Williams high contract wages. So that's seen as a big positive there. But still, for once I felt that forget about all the transfer rumor links and all those sort of things, right? Since the end of last season, for once I felt probably we were linked to a few people in the media and we were able to successfully pursue them. There has never been a case where we were actually, like, for example, we were once upon a time, if we were being linked with Danny Alves, we'll end up buying Andre Santos. I don't think, for instance, that happened, at least during the transfer window. The people we were really linked at the start of the window were the ones we successfully were able to capture. Whether or not they will come good is actually a different thing that remains to be seen. None of us have answers to that. But yeah, so if you were to ask me an assessment, I would say 5 out of 10.
So 5 out of 10 for me, that means very average, right? Very average transfer window. But for you, what does that 5 out of 10 means? Like, what is the best transfer window and how much did you give for Arsenal in your lifetime as an Arsenal fan? So that would give us like a comparative score, like 5 out of 10 for me might be lower than what 5 out of 10 for you. So
yeah, 5 out of 10 should still not be taken badly. I mean, I sort of lowered my mark just on the fact that, as I said, many of them were sent out on loans rather than selling them, which we were wrong for some reasons. Or, I mean, we didn't play our cards properly, or everyone around the table knew what our cards are, and then they just played our tricks. So we could have still bargained a lot of things, and then we could have still done the outgoings that we really wanted to. That would have actually at least put me in 7 out of 10, I would say. More sales should have happened. There were some bizarre things, as probably what you were aware. I mean, there were talks about Xhaka going out and then him becoming the captain again. It's complete turnaround of events. That was I felt needless thing to do at this point. We've discussed in length in the previous parts, but I think we could have done better there. If you have heard talk about that particular area, I mean, with Xhaka, we could have at least, managed to offload him. I don't know how the negotiations broke down with Roma there, but if we had offloaded him out, we could have had a chance to do an upgrade. Again, the players that we were linked with, Ruben Neves and everyone, were similar players. I don't know how far it would have actually worked out there, but we didn't really have an option around that area. I felt where we really lacked strength, or we don't have steel, is we filled players with potential. We filled players with younger age bracket. So I mean, in 5 years down the line, even should they not work out, for example, their value might not actually decrease too much. That's what I feel. So at least in a way, there are players who are actually sellable assets. If you look at from a club's perspective. But yeah, I think we had an opportunity to improve our team further, which probably we didn't, and that's what I feel is the big letdown here.
Which is actually true. But again, right? There are a lot of questions in that we'll probably unlock a little bit going forward. So yeah, that's what my question is, Arun, for you to put your perspective on the Arsenal transfers. And already Bob set a scale of 10, so let's go with that. Let's see what your number for 10 for Arsenal transfer would be.
Before I proceed, I would just like to ask Bob. So, Bob, you were initially going to give 7, and the fact that there were no proper outgoing plan, and the fact that we were not able to sell and we rather loan, has brought it down to 5, right? Just for me to understand.
Exactly. Yeah. No, exactly. If we had sold few more players, for example, even like I said, or Nketiah, for example, who are entering into the final years of their contract, then it could have tilted more.
Interesting, because I would give it somewhere between 6 and 7. For me, this was a really good transfer window, given what we want to achieve and what we have in place. What we had in place rather. We've been talking, we have been signing players every season, but any player that we look at, the transfer policy of the club is dictating the kind of players that we are getting now, and we did not have great players to start with. Now, Bob, this is just to counter your point of not being able to push people, and the reason why I'm giving 6 or 7 is that nobody wants our players. It's as simple as that. Nobody wants our players. You can only you have a product that sells for $50. You can keep pushing it down to a point where the product is not expired, but you don't want to take a hit either. That's the situation that we have right now. We can sell it at even 10%, but then even that 10% is not something that we are getting right now, and that's why people are going loan. For me, the incomings are very encouraging, in the sense that we are going into a direction of buying players with potential, players who do not command high wages. And even if they fail, we are not going to be in any position, not any bad position to move them on. So for me, that was very refreshing to see, given all the mistakes that we've been making so far in giving people high wages. So that is very good. And another thing for me is that if these players do well, the policy seems to be that we're going to be combining the youth players from the academies with these youngsters, and we keep selling the ones that we make profit of. So given that, even if these players are not able to do really well for us, but if we can make a profit out of them, that would be a good win as well. So given these aspects, and if you consider the spots that we filled, these are all spots that we've been crying out for. We needed a left back backup. We got Nuno Tavares. We needed another centre back. We got White. White doesn't tall. He doesn't go for the long ball. He doesn't go for the high balls, but he fits Arteta's. He seemed to fit Arteta's system. That's why he got him. So to help White, we got Tomiyasu. So if you look at all these signings, they all have a specific purpose, and they don't seem to be panic buys. Generally, when we get towards the end of the transfer window, Arsenal are famous for doing these panic buys. Like you mentioned, we go for like a Dani Carvajal or someone, and we end up with like an Andre Santos sort of a player. I feel that sort of a panic buy has been avoided. For me, it seemed like though we as fans from the outside have been like screaming for signings, there are only a certain number of signings that a club can make in a given transfer window. Your ins and outs are not always specified to be a certain number range. It is not always like you make 10 signings, 10 ins and 10s out. That doesn't happen in football. Like as much as we wanted to push a lot of these deadwoods out, the fact that we've been able to get rid of so many people like who were sitting on high wages, though we are paying parts of wages of these people, the very fact that they are not in the squad makes a huge difference to the rest of the players in the squad. It just takes one rotten apple to destroy an entire squad, right? So for me, all of those are positives. Yeah. If you ask me why I do not give an 8 or above in that case, it is maybe I maybe expected like one of these signings to be a bigger star, maybe, but that again goes completely against what the club wants to do. So for me, the big star out of our signings is probably Odegaard, and I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. I would prefer an Odegaard over a Madison, though Madison might have good numbers in his English. I would rather prefer an Odegaard given the high ceiling that he has and the age that he's in. So for me, an overall window rating, if I were to give, I would definitely give a 6 to 7, leaning more towards a 7. The -3 for me would be the fact that, like Bob said, we were not able to move as many players as we would have liked to. But then we again have some time till September 8th. So maybe I'm expecting one of Cedric, Mo, or Kolasinac to be.
So that's the question that I have, right? Both of you have mentioned about the selling of the clubs, but if you consider traditionally, English clubs are not great sellers. English clubs are great buyers. Apart from like Chelsea and us being good in selling market a lot more, but if you consider Liverpool, tell me like a couple of Liverpool good selling in the last couple of years, right? Maybe we could say
Coutinho.
Coutinho, Suarez. Those two are the bigger ones that went out. Except us, Spurs and Chelsea, Manchester United traditionally bad sellers. City bad sellers traditionally. So very little number of clubs are traditionally good sellers in English Premier League. People like to come here, not go out of this.
That's when we had good players, Vijay. But yeah, they don't knock our doors anymore.
For me, that's true. That's true. I would actually like to add that to my previous point as well. When we were building before, we had a good core team to start with. Now we are actually adding good core players for the future.
But that's what my point is, right? The selling point is for me a little bit a conundrum, because we don't have like French league has like Lyon or like Marseille or like Monaco. These are selling clubs. These clubs thrive on selling. Or Italian leagues are selling clubs. Spanish leagues, Villarreal or Sevilla, they sell at like premium. They're not great buyers. But English Premier League is not a great selling league in itself, right? Like the maximum that we could hope for is like someone from English Premier League coming in and taking our players, and our players are not good enough for someone else from the league to come and take. So that point is what I was thinking. But to move ahead, did you guys saw the Edu transfer interview actually? No, actually, that came at a very wrong time. I had similar points to discuss in our podcast, and everything else was covered by Edu, and I went like, shit. These are the things that I could have talked in my part. But
let's still say our opinions if we still want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So his idea of this. So let's start right with the bang. Right, his idea of that under 23 project youth and something like that. Right, that's what his idea is, and he says patience and everything. I get the idea of project youth, but this does not seem to be a new idea for me, especially post Wenger Arsenal. This does not come out as a new idea for me, right? If I consider from 18-19 season till now, 18-19 we signed Torreira, who was 22 or 21, who was coming after a big World Cup, and then Guendouzi at 18. Then we had Leno. Leno was 24, I think, 24 or 25, around that age. and then we signed Socrates, right? That's 4 people we signed in 18-19. And then if you consider every next window, that's 4 or 5 people is what we have been signing. The next window we had Luis, Pepe, our record signing. Tierney came out of that window. Saliba came out of the window. Martinelli came out of the window. So if you take Luis out of the picture, those 4 are youth signings again. So every season we have been signing. Even last season, let's take if you take Willian out of the window, Partey is kind of at the right age. Then we had Gabriel, we had what's his name, Alex Runason, right? So we have been signing youth. It's not, and we have been signing a lot of players. This is not like a freak window where we have signed 5 or 6 players. No, we have been signing 5 or 6 players every window. So I don't see the value of Edu saying that this is something new that has come up with, right? This has been what has been happening with Arsenal.
Can I take a stab at that?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the point which Edu missed, and I don't think he could actually say this, is the fact that we're getting young players, in my opinion at least, young players who have a high ceiling, a high potential. You know, like of all the players that you mentioned, Runarsson was not someone who was known to have a high potential. Maybe Gundosi, but then we've seen like how his stocks plummet. Like you also mentioned, like it is since 18-19 that we're taking the window period, right? 18-19 was when we had Emery. And the players, if you really think about it, they were not young players, but like mostly players who were more suited to Emery's system. Emery's system was not a ball playing or like a tiki-taka style pass system, which is more like a low block counter-attacking system, is reflected in the number of shots that we got. So all these players that we got, Lewis, only ball player, yeah, and Pepe breaks counter-attacks. Torreira, again, is not someone who progresses the ball, but is like effective in counter-attack. Same thing with Gundosi. Socrates cannot play with the ball at his feet. You know, so all these players that we are talking about were signed for the.
Are you talking about Socrates the centre back, or are you talking about Socrates the right back that we used at some point?
Socrates the human being, I would say. he cannot play with the ball at his feet. So it all, like, for me, all those signings did not make me think that we were signing younger players, because it was again a combination of both younger players and a bit of older heads, and like Socrates, or like, even if you do not call them older heads, experienced heads, I would say, you know. But all of them, in my opinion, were just brought to fit every system. Well, the reason why Pepe frustrates us is because he's more suited to a counter-attacking team, and that was what was needed. Though Emery didn't seem to want Pepe and wanted Zaha more, the player profile was best suited for Emery's system. You know, so that's how I see those signings. And here we see, though these players are bought based on the fact that they need to suit Arteta's system and the playing out from the back, keeping the ball, and all that. There also seems to be a pattern where we are not paying a premium for anyone like a Pepe, you know, like a Pepe that we have only seen in another league, and I've never seen him perform in our league. Odegaard, of course, yeah, we paid 50 million, but Odegaard, we've already seen him play, and we know what he could become. Like, why I was reading an article yesterday which mentioned these words: Odegaard's ceiling is limitless. You know, if there's a player that is that high, I don't think Pepe was, as much of a fan that I am of Pepe, I don't think Pepe was ever rated this way. He had one good season, but Odegaard has been having like these glimpses since 16, not justifying the 50 million or anything, but this is how the transfer market is, right? So I feel the players that we are getting now, and the fact that we did not sign anyone who's above the age of 25, even though we have the means, it tells me that this is a variation of what we used to do before. I wouldn't say it's very different from what we used to do before, but it's just like probably the next improvement in our transfer policy, which would again like cut the people who might be problematic, who might not fit into a system, or who might not be as flexible and adaptable to changing system. I think the thing that they're going for here is footballing intelligence. I don't know if White possesses a lot of that. I have never seen him like play a lot. I'll be very honest there, but seeing Odegaard, seeing like, you know, like you said, Kieran Tierney, the previous signings, and Matt Gabriel and all that, it makes me think it's more on like, you know, the player intelligence, the player profile, more than like, you know, the age in itself. It's like a profile within a certain age period that we're going for.
If I were to add my couple of cents there, As you said, we've had a lot of. I mean, we signed a lot of younger players in the past, but then the system as well has been changing quite a lot in the last few years since Wenger left. It's been very hard for these players to adapt to different managerial styles and then different, style of play between them, tactics and all those sort of things, which are completely different between one another. And there has been a lack of overall thought in terms of who these players are, or what could they become, what would they more be suited for. I mean, even in terms of managerial wish list, those sort of things. If a player were to actually play under a particular manager, they should be having a fallback plan in terms of who can come in that can make use of the current crop of players that we have, and how can they bring the best out of each one of them. So I think that vision was missing from the hierarchy. That's why I felt, although we signed a lot of younger players, it didn't really click as much as how it should have been.
Interesting. But my question is, right, that I'm not questioning the project youth per se, but I'm questioning, like, are we becoming a reactive club, right? Because there are a lot of things that happen. Like last season, what was the problem was that Partey was injured a lot. When Tierney got injured, we suffered. So basically, like, these are the building blocks of the club, or of the team. And then when these building blocks were missing in action for a particular reason or injury or whatever, we are having a harder time. Like Lewis was not available, we had a hard time. So I can see that Arsenal is trying to bridge that gap, right? Like Tierney, if he's injured, now we have someone, Nuno Tavares, coming in and playing something, right? Who could be not as exactly as Tierney, but could give kind of we wouldn't go into a free fall mode where we have to pay something else, right?
See, this team has not been, a high performing sort of a team where we just plug in the gaps wherever there is actually a gap or a shortfall in position. This is more a team we are trying to pick together with a group of individuals that we have, and then we are trying to do the best in terms of what we could. There is no clear identity in terms of how this team can perform, or what's the clear way that Arteta wants to play, or how he prefers to play. He's been here for a season and a half, but yet you could not actually see a single pattern of play that he could actually take with the team. I mean, should he have the strongest level available? So what I feel is the past few windows, be just not just for Arteta, but even before with Emery, that we've been always reactive in some of these things, and we've succumbed to pressure. For example, we did wanted a marquee signing couple of seasons back, and that's when we got Pepe. Whether we really wanted him or whether he would really fit into the team is actually a different question. And if in the hindsight, if you look at it, it perhaps didn't work out as the way that we wanted. It was a heavy price tag for him and as well as for us. And then he always carried that burden. And I feel he might not be able to even justify that anytime. Having said about Pepe, I just wanted to quickly come back to this current transfer window. As I said earlier, we've identified clear targets for every position that we had, just that the fans couldn't see. I think between the manager and the sporting director, they had a clear plan in terms of who they wanted to bring in at every position should a player supposed to move out. For example, late during the transfer window, we saw Bellerin move out to Betis, and then on his position, we've been following Tomiyasu for a long time, and then we managed to get him. The identity rather than project youth and all those sort of things, the identity with this team or how they want the players to be is versatility. That's one thing which I see with all these signings. With Tomiyasu, it's interesting because he can play as a center half as well as a right back. And he is as well who can actually cover up should the wing backs or the center halves barge forward in terms of an attacking play. So I think the identity, what the club is trying to do, at least from what we could see or what we could decipher, is the fact that they are trying to go in for players with more sort of versatility in other positions that they can actually fill in should an injury or should something happen during the event of a game.
Interesting. Yeah. That I mean, it looks like that, but also when we are talking about what Edu was mentioning, right? There was another point where he was mentioning about 21 outgoings that has gone out of the club till now. That seems a lot, like a really lot. And still, if you consider even after all those outgoings, we still could name a lot of players out, right? That 21 in itself is a squad. 21 players outgoing in itself is a squad. And then we still have like Cedric, and we still have Mari, Kolasinac. I don't know if we could consider Mari because he is considered as a squad player, right? So these players. So what is our squad, and how long is this cleaning up of squad going to happen? Arun,
See, this whole.
Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, sorry, Arun.
Yeah, go for it, Bob. I'll continue after you. Yeah.
What I feel, right? With us selling the players. Yes, Arun, you mentioned the fact that nobody were ready to buy our players. That's because we were not showing the right results on the field for players to be attracting attention from other clubs. So what really does matter is how we perform on the pitch, on the table, on Premier League table, the way that we reflect our position there. That's what will attract more teams or other teams to start looking at our players. And we just have to be content at the end of the day. Although I said it's just a 5 out of 10 transfer window, we just have to be content. Because it's not like a football manager mode, right? You can't just chop and change the squad whole along, within a window. So it just takes time, and possibly you just have to keep it going and keep the results coming, bring the positivity in. And once you have players performing decently, then you hope that, the players that you wanted to really move out could be given somewhere or could be offloaded to a better position or a better club. And for that to happen, they need to play. We need to start doing it.
Mm-hmm. So Arun, continue with that, but also add to the fact that there has been so much talk in the media about Arsenal spending 150 million on players, on incomings, and all those things, right? For me, that doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how much money we have spent, because we are rebuilding a squad. Like Edu was mentioning, 21 outgoings means the squad is like very thin. And then we had to rebuild those positions. Like, we had to rebuild not just first team players, we had to rebuild with squad players. We had to find the right profiles that could fit and everything. So 150 million is not a lot of money when you consider in that fashion, right? So yeah, what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
My thoughts, like I always keep saying, this is like trying to correct years of mismanagement. I think like every Gooner who has been watching Arsenal play at least over the last 10 years would remember that famous window where we signed like 5 people on the last day, one of which was our current manager.
Yeah.
How many of those 5 people do you remember? You remember Mertesacker? You remember Arteta? Who were the other 3? Yossi Benayoun, where is he now?
Mm-hmm.
He was signed on a loan, Arun.
Yeah, whatever it is. Where is Benayoun? but where is Andre Santos? He was one of the 5, right? If I remember right. So that's the thing. Like, we've been like, all those panic signings over these years have come back to bite us in the bum at the point where we are left with a new manager and a new project and new challenges. The thing is, we have, if you want to compete in a race, you got to keep running. The moment you stop running, everyone's going to go in front of you. That's exactly what happened with us. We stopped running. Our policy changed in such a way that we started buying these people who would add a bit, but not to the extent that we needed. So our objective at that time was not winning the league, and the league was not as competitive as it is right now. So with buying these mediocre to shitty players whom we didn't have to pay a premium for, was sort of like the right strategy at that time. Though fans were not happy with it, that's what the club wanted, which was made obvious with whatever Wenger was saying in terms of the 4th spot being the trophy. So the objective was that, and that's where we were. That combined with the fact that we kept making those similar signings over year after year after year. Name me one marquee signing till we signed Aubameyang. Lacazette wasn't marquee. Lacazette was definitely not marquee, which is evident in how he's playing. Aubameyang was the first real marquee signing that we did. Since probably, I want to say
Ozil and Alexis Sanchez.
Oh yeah, Ozil and Alexis Sanchez. Maybe Ozil, I would say, even not Sanchez. Yeah, I was going back to Reyes. I was going back, going back to Invincibles. But like, yeah, we did sign Ozil. Like, after Ozil, for every Ozil, we had 4 or 5 duds around him, which was never a win in the transfer market at that point when it was not as competitive. At that point, if we had 150 million and had we gone for those 2 players who could have taken to us to the top, it would have made a lot of sense because the remain out of the remaining 9, at least 6 were decent players, 6 or 7. We were never known for our defense, but the rest of the club, we had at least 6 to 7 decent players. Now, compare that to the situation that we have right now. Who are the decent players in the team that we have to complement?
Actually, that brings me to another question, right?
Yes.
Sorry for cutting you off.
No problem. No problem.
But the question is, right? Edu himself, right, as a person, as a technical director or whatever his position is, do you think he could attract, or do you think he could attract the bigger talent? Right, because the thing is, he is good in some markets. Like, he has worked with Brazil and he has worked with Corinthians and all those things. He has his he has a skill of picking up a Martinelli. He has a skill of picking up a Gabriel. He has a skill of picking up like these kind of players from Tierney
David Luiz.
But what I'm saying is, like, when Arsenal reach that point where we would want to add, like what Chelsea is doing, right? They are adding Lukaku to their roster, or what City is doing, where they are adding a Grealish to their already thing, right? When we reach that point, do you think Edu would be someone like, because when you consider Raul, who was with us, he gave that aura that he could sign anyone. He could, if Messi was available and we were in top 4, Raul could do it. He will sign Messi if he could, right? If we give the money, if Arsenal was around
I think that's what he wanted us to believe. For me, like, when I think back at all that Raul did and the way in which he left the club, he wanted us to believe that he is the superstar that could do anything.
But he did, right? He signed Saliba. He signed Saliba when everyone else was.
Yeah, but Saliba is not a marquee signing. Saliba was a guy with potential, which is again the same thing that we are doing right now. Now we are trying to sign people about 20 with potential. That was a 19-year-old with potential. But I mean, I still don't see a marquee signing. That's what I'm saying.
No. So actually, Raul, to add my point there, Raul had a better pull factor than what Edu has, because he was actually coming in. Yeah, so he was coming from Barcelona, and in Barcelona they had bucket loads of debt and even bucket loads of cash to actually deal with. So they don't really command player fees and all those sort of things. The pull from Barcelona will make the other clubs lower their demands and all those. The transfer fee, and basically that would actually affect the move to come down. So if you were to compare Edu or Raul, then obviously Raul had more pull in terms of bringing in players. Whether they were useful or whether they were going to fit into the team is actually a different question. Or should we actually say, if we actually talk about an hypothetical scenario where tomorrow a Qatari investment takes over our club, would Edu be there? The answer would be no.
No. Yeah, I agree, Bob. But my thing is it like down to that person? Is it down to Raul or Edu that we're not able to attract players or we're not able to sell them? Or is it down to like how we are performing on the pitch? It's all down to the club. Arsenal as a club still has a pull, but our performances are not at the same level as we would have liked them to be or as they were before, which is in turn affecting the extent to which we can that pull can go. Like, if in 2006 we were able to attract top players, we do not have that pull anymore. When was the last time we won something of significance? Don't give me FA Cups. Outside of England, when was the last time we won something of significance? That's what people are going to be looking at. You're an FA Cup winning team. Good. FA Cup is prestigious. It's a great tournament. I love the FA Cup. But someone who is a marquee signing from Spain or Italy or Germany would want to see you win leagues. That's the kind of players who want to go to teams that we're talking about. Chelsea, we're talking about City, Liverpool. All these teams are the teams that won the league over the last 10 years that we're talking about. United has always been a global brand and they get the players they want. I know they have lost out on players, but they get the players they want. So it's It's the performances that are preventing us from getting the players. There seems to be no promise. There's no, okay, we do this, we get there. Yes, of course, Edu is saying all these things. Edu and Arteta have a plan which could work in the future. But then that's again as a fan, I'm happy with what they're doing. But I also know that this comes with the caveat that we will not be able to attract like all those marquee signings, which again in turn feeds into what the club wants to do. They don't want to go for those marquee signings anymore. Even if they do, they're not going to be doing 3 or 4. One in maybe each position, one in the midfield, one in striker, one in defense. So given all that, I think this is a problem with how we perform. Like you replace Edu with David Dean, they're going to be in the same situation. David Dean would probably be able to sell our players better than what Edu does. But in terms of the pull of bringing someone to Arsenal, I think we do not have that pull anymore. We do not have that pull anymore, which we have to accept at this point. Like, it's like accepting, though I don't want to admit it, Chelsea are a bigger club than us right now.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like imagine before Abramovich, or even like during the initial years of Abramovich, Chelsea went on buying players.
Yeah.
Went on buying players by throwing money at them, and within the second year they won the league, which again boosted up their credentials. And once we started our decline after Vieira left and we moved to a new stadium, apart from these an Ozil there, a Sanchez here, an Aubameyang here, can you remember any signing that actually sticks to your head, which could be termed as a marquee? The pull went down, so that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter who's there. Of course, like Bob said, had Raul been there, things would have been maybe easier. But then we kicked out Raul for a reason, which the club values a lot: integrity and honesty, right? So for me, like I said, in this position, even if it was David Dean, I don't think we'd be able to do any better because of where the club is.
Okay, so let's stop the discussion on this hypothetical future, and let's look at the immediate future right now, right, Bob? So the question for me is, right, after this transfer window, now whatever is going to be the responsibility, right, for Arsenal in the next season, who is going to own the responsibility? Is it going to be Edu or is it going to be Arteta? So let me put it this way.
Or the players.
For me, the question is, like, if things don't go well, who's going to get the sack? Because we cannot sack the players.
I think, so the first head would be Arteta, of course, and then soon enough would be followed by Edu. There's been lots of things going around with the fact that Edu has been already given an ultimatum at the back of things and all, and he's just clinging on to his job. I don't know how far it is true, but if I were to think at it from outside, I would say that Arteta would be the first to go, because he was the one who had a say in most of the transfers that we have done this season, and should the results not come in this way, so which means that he would be the first to go, and it's going to be quickly followed by Edu, because even with Edu, there has not been, although he is actually a former player and all those sort of things, there isn't anything attached further to for him to extend his say. He's not like an outperforming sporting director or anything that the club hasn't seen in anyone yet.
Okay, so let's do this kind of thing. I have put together a kind of a slide of all the transfers that's happened in the in Premier League. Let's go club by club. Pick out anyone whom you find as good or bad, or is going to be a danger man or whatever. Right? Let's do this. Okay, trying to get this in. So with Arsenal, right? Let's start with us. Who do you think would be someone who is going to make an immediate impact in Arsenal team from the transfer?
If I were to start, I would say that Lokonga sticks out completely from the rest of them, because he has already shown glimpses of what he can do, and he's been as well rewarded with the start in the Belgian national team. So I would put him ahead of anyone else.
Arun, do you have a clear favorite?
Odegaard.
Okay. Let's rush through it.
One moment. But again, like we've spoken about all our signings, but we have never spoken about Tomiyasu. I think
Bob did a little bit. So
okay.
We would see we would like to see the performance rather than going in
Okay,
analysis.
okay. I agree. Okay.
So that's Aston Villa. So Aston Villa, they bought Bundia and Leon Bailey, both of whom is for me bigger signings. But till now, Danny Ings has proven himself to be very important too. So anyone else?
Ings, I would say Ings. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So. Bob, do you have anyone from this
Bailey? I've been following Bailey for quite a long time since his Leverkusen days, so I'm just so excited for him.
Mm-hmm. But we do have the snake over there. But Brentford. I'm not sure if we could actually go ahead and pick up a danger man because or someone who's going to be important. Because I don't
know. Yeah, I don't know any of those guys.
Christoph Ayer is a Danish centre back, and he was actually at the Euros, so he's one to look out for in terms of a prominent player.
Mm-hmm. So Brighton, I think Brighton would be again someone whom we would be playing shortly. So I'm not very keen on any player here, so I don't know if someone is. But
I think that Enoch Mbetu is a striker, right? I think.
I think so.
I think he's rated. I'm because I remember reading something about him. I think he's rated.
And when I look at the Brighton incoming list, right, all that I can see in front of my eyes is Ben White cash. Oh my God!
Ben White hopefully turns out good for us. But Burnley too. I'm not big. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Maxwell Cornet. So I know him since. He's played for Lyon. So yeah, he's actually a very good fullback, and we hope that he's performing to the levels that he had done at Lyon.
And Hennessy is the goalkeeper, right? Wayne Hennessy?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's just rush through this.
Can we just skip this? It gives me serious, it makes my blood boil when I see this.
But again, right? They have sent out so many players.
That's exactly why my blood boils. Look at all those names.
See, okay, guys. If you were to talk anyone apart from Tammy Abraham, rest of and Kurt Zuma as well, rest of him have already been on loans or meager sales. There's not been any major sort of so even Timori is I believe is a loan with obligation to buy, if I'm not wrong.
But I was so surprised that Victor Moses ended up in Spartak Moscow. Right, he had such a high potential. Everyone are talking about Victor Moses a couple of seasons ago, and then now he is in.
He thrived under Conte. Conte because he was already frozen, and then he came back. And then he got frozen again after Conte.
Yeah,
and here Lukaku, they got Lukaku.
So anyways, let's move on. Crystal Palace, they signed this Michael Olise guy, from Reading. And Bob, I think you were one of the people who were ahead of Joachim Andersen, right?
Andersen,
who rated him highly.
Yes.
So
yeah. Go
ahead.
No, Crystal Palace didn't have much cash to spend on, and then they pretty much were looking at Vieira to pull in a couple of youngsters, and then Olis and Gyohe are good youngsters to look out for. Not sure to the levels of what they want them to do, but yeah, the problem with Crystal Palace is the fact that they've actually let go a lot of players due to their end of contracts.
Yeah.
I think Andersen would fit that team in terms of they need a good defensive centre back. Andersen is a guy with good potential, so I think he'll be a good fit for them. Yeah.
They should have signed. They should have paid the money for what's his name, Nketiah.
So you didn't probably mention this year. Edward from Celtic got signed.
The last day. I didn't add that to the list.
He's a sharp buy.
Yeah. Okay. So Everton has Andres Santos.
Theo! Oh my God, Theo!
Theo's out, but Theo would come in Southampton. So
yeah.
talk about that. But for me, the person to look out for in here is Demari Gray. I used to have him in my FIFA teams. Whenever I want someone to be like, some kind of player for squad or someone who could fill that up, Demari Gray used to be one with high.
Yeah, it seems like they've signed all these players like for backups more than first team.
Yeah.
My only thing is like, I was thinking Richarlison would probably leave in the window to PSG, but that didn't happen. So it seems like they still have like a decent squad.
Yeah. So Leeds.
I think okay. One last thing about Everton is the fact that they had already spent up all their money when Ancelotti was around last year. So they didn't really have anything to spend on, and that's why they did bring in Rafa basically to actually work with the players that they have, and then just buy one or two which can fit in. And in that regard, Townsend has already played under him at Newcastle, so he could be someone good to look out for.
Mm-hmm. So for Leeds, Leeds actually didn't have any outs. I mean, they had a couple of contract ups, but I didn't think anything. But anyone that from here, Bob, do you think
Firpo could be a good, decent one. He was pulled in by Bielsa, so he could be looked at someone in the league. Dan James, I found it very surprising for the price money that they actually paid him. It's so ridiculous considering the fact that we are not able to offload anyone, and they have been managed.
that is a really big surprise in the transfer market, because he had 3 games, I think, where he started. All these 3 games that United played, he started, and then suddenly his stock went up and Leeds bought him.
I think he would do well because like he has pace as his biggest asset. And he's someone like who can create chaos, which Bielsa thrives on chaos. So that's something that I think he'll do well, like in terms of adapting to Bielsa's system.
And Leicester had kind of an interesting window.
A very good window.
They are kind of like if we look at Premier League in general, I think they had one of the best windows of the lot. So Bob, do you have anyone to look at from here?
I would look for Patson Daka. He's actually a striker, but he was tremendous in Salzburg. So I think that's one for me. And Somare, I think, is a holding midfielder who played for Lille last year during the title triumph. So he's as well a good buy. I mean, if you look at everyone that they've got in, looks at to build up from their last position and potentially knock on to those Champions League places.
Yeah. I think Leicester has a very good squad.
Yeah, if I may add a point. I think Daka is going to be like I hope he succeeds, because like it's not very often that you get like players from Zimbabwe, Zambia, and all to come play in the league. Plus, again, the pressure on him is going to be tremendous, because I think they see him as the guy to replace probably Vardy in the long run. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I'm also really looking forward to see Somare play.
I was looking for Somare. I'm not very much knowledgeable on Daka, but I was looking at Somare as Liverpool had Konate.
Very good signing. Very good signing.
Yeah, someone that they have been. But for me, the outgoings were very interesting, right? Wijnaldum, Jorginho went out to PSG on free, and Shaqiri they let go. Again, so those two are kind of like, because Shaqiri has been doing a really good job in the squad for them. That is something that I was surprised a little bit about. But for City, again, we all know what they are doing. Grealish is going to be. I mean, he has been showing potential, and in the game against us, he kind of was good.
But that is no game to judge him, right? Like anyone can perform against us. So especially when you're surrounded by 10 good players, you can really perform.
I still feel with City, they've missed the boat with not signing a striker. So that's going to bite back at them during the second half of the season if they actually hold up without buying anyone there. So
I think they would go all out on January to find someone.
But Similarly, did Liverpool sign anyone to replace Wijnaldum? I don't think they did, right?
No, they did.
I think that might be a problem for them as well. It's funny, like we have a team like what we do it, we are like rating other clubs transfers.
No, we are not rating. We are just seeing who could be the danger man, right? That's what the whole idea is. So for United, again, right?
Okay. Can we
Next
skip?
one, please.
Can we skip, please?
but again, let's stop here. Do you guys think Cristiano Ronaldo is going to have the same impact as whatever we are, or the social media or the is expecting?
Let me ask you this: do you think he's going to score 15 to 20 goals next season?
Possibly.
At least 15.
Penalties.
Possibly.
At least 15, possibly. That's a win.
Yep.
That's a win. That's enough for them if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely say, yeah, a 36-year-old Ronaldo scoring 15 to 20 goals. Yeah, that's a win.
Okay, so moving on, Newcastle, where are they actually made the signing of the season, right? Santiago Munoz.
Munoz.
So
I think if I actually think of it, right, they just basically look for the Santiago word there in the directory and find it. Anyone that is a footballer and got him. The second name was close enough. So, yeah.
Santiago Munoz. For the reference, Goal movie. Anyone who has not seen that movie, go ahead and watch it. So Norwich had the bigger sale, right? Bundia sale, and they signed a lot of players with that money.
I'm looking forward for Gilmore.
Gilmore.
He did show a lot of glimpses in his Chelsea days, and then as well as in the Scotland team during the Euros. So I'm looking forward to see how he does. Not in the next game, especially, but then after that, yeah.
So yeah, those are Norwich. Southampton again. Theo Walcott. Theo.
Theo.
To be very honest with you guys, I felt very happy for Walcott there. I think he thrived in the second half of the season that he went there on loan, and then he did take a wage cut to join the club, thinking more of his regular time in the game. And to the club that he knows and he supports as a child. So it's really good for him. I just sincerely hope that it works out for him.
But having said that, Bob, I think Southampton are kind of not the. I mean, it's not a window that they would be proud of, right? Just signing Walcott. They have not signed anyone to make the change. So I think.
Yeah. So Vestergaard's departure was actually pretty hard for them. So I don't know how they are going to cope. But then I think with the other clubs, really, they're financially struggling with the effects of the pandemic. So they didn't really have much anywhere transfer fees or anything available at their kitty.
But again, I think like with these people that they've got and the squad they have, they should be like finishing 10 to 15. I think that's what they're hoping for anyway.
Yeah, they are considering that we are our relegation rivals as well.
Okay.
So let's move on. Tottenham signed again.
I'm actually happy. There's no big name in there. Yes, I'm very happy.
But Emerson Royal, someone. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Emerson Royal. I hate to talk about him, but the fact that he didn't really wanted to come, and there was a last-minute proposal from our side to swap Bahrain with Royal in Barcelona. He didn't really wanted to join us, which is all right. Okay. Christian Romero is a good buy. He's a shrewd buy. He's played well in Atlanta, and yeah, no, I think I just hope none of them perform to the levels that we want, but yeah, they are good buys. Brian Gill was good as well. He's an upcoming Spanish player who's got lots of potentials, but then you could argue that Lo Celso was seeing one of the bright lights of the Spanish youth. He didn't live up to his expectations so far, so we don't know what's going to happen.
But I was happy with the video that they were making of Sissoko and Rose, I think, joining Watford. They made a video of like Sissoko typing, "Hey, where are you?" And it was fun to watch. So yeah, That's good.
So you found something Tottenham fun to watch.
No,
I think we should. We should close this podcast. I don't think people are going to like us anymore.
Someone leaving Tottenham fun to watch.
Okay. Okay, my bad.
So for Watford, those are the two signings, right? From did I miss? Okay, I think I've mucked up the slide over here. I think I should have these names copied or.
That's okay. I think Danny Rose and Sissoko, they are proven in the Premier League, and what Watford need for now is just for them to stay up in the league. Anything that can make it work.
So, anyways, moving ahead with West Ham. West Ham actually signed Alfonso Areola on loan, whom we were touting as someone we could look at. But
Vlasic is a very good buy. He's again a fullback, so it's a good buy. They are going to be playing in the Europa League, so they need more squad players available. You didn't mention Kurt Zouma there. He's been really very good as well for them. So see, Moyes for one, I wanted him to actually prove people wrong, the press wrong, that his time at Manchester United was just at the bad place at the bad time, and I'm happy that he's been able to do wonders with this West Ham team. Not at the expense of Arsenal, but
So the last team would be the Wolves. I'm not going to talk about any of the players because I practically don't know any of them. So if you guys
between Arteta and I suddenly couldn't remember Wolves manager now, but Bruno Lage. Between them, I think it's a matter of who goes out first. Wolves has not been clicking so far, and so are us. So.
Okay, so that's our transfer roundup for today. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining in. We had hopefully had a good discussion on the whole points. So meet you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye, guys.